Well, hey there, and welcome to the Rooftop Podcast. We are actually out at the fire pit today, my absolute favorite place to do the podcast from. It's not always possible because of how much we're on the move, but it certainly is today, and I'm excited for this fire pit conversation with my good buddy Herb Thompson, who is kind enough to come down to Florida from up in the Maryland area and spend time with Monty and me. He and his significant other, Corrie. What's the right term?
Fiancé.
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 Let's use that.
That's official.
It's official. Well, I didn't know if I could say it or not. Anyway, super excited to have Herb here with us. You know, on this podcast, what we talk about is leadership, but we talk about leadership at a grassroots level. We talk about leadership in the way of what's your Pineapple Express? What is it that is needed to move the people in your arena to take action they otherwise wouldn't take, as Robert Putnam says, to operationalize the upswing of social capital, trust, and relationships. And, you know, Herb is just such an amazing leader in every regard. We actually got connected on LinkedIn, but then he came to the play in DC. We became friends. He and Monty and Corrie and I connected and have been in touch ever since. So I asked Herb to come sit with us today and just talk about kind of the state of leadership in the country, where we are today, and get his perspective on some things. Herb is a former Green Beret. He grew up in 5th Special Forces Group, tons of combat experience, but he's also very accomplished, equally if not more accomplished, in the civilian world, both as a corporate leader, but also as an entrepreneur in terms of how he thinks about business and how he inspires others using his primarily social platform on LinkedIn. He's done a ton of work in the transition space. Wrote a book called The Transition Mission, Green Beret's Approach to Transition from Military Service. And it has done extremely well. In fact, it's really kind of the gold standard in transition. He still speaks on it to this day. So we're going to kind of hit on all of these things. We're going to talk about these things. I wanted you to have a little bit of his background. He's going to tell you a lot more in his backstory. But Herb, thanks for being here, buddy.
No, I appreciate you and Monty having us down. This is really cool. Anytime two Green Berets can get together, but then just like-minded families and good people, good stuff happens.
And a fire.
And a fire.
Even if it's like 90 degrees.
I mean, you know, somebody turn on the AC, please.
Well, listen, man, I mean, the first thing I'd like to do is you and I have been working on storytelling today. It's something that we both agree on, that storytelling is such an important component of how we lead today, how we bridge the civil-military gap. And I think it would only be appropriate if we start off this interview with you telling us a bit of your story, a bit of your backstory of how you grew up and that journey and what led you into the Army and ultimately Special Forces.
No, I appreciate it, Scott. I think the term is humble beginnings. That's the politically correct term. I'll just say it. We're poor. And probably the highlight, you know, living in a trailer park upstate New York, mom, factory workers, dad lost his job. And then we got kicked out of the trailer park, so the palace. Then we moved around for a bit, and I always start there because.
How old were you then, Herb, when all of that went down?
I was probably 12, I think, when we got booted out of the trailer park. And then there's a lot of life lessons that happened throughout that, especially my dad, the way he raised me to be a young man, which was very hands-off, and it worked out. But I had to figure out a lot of stuff on my own as I went through things. And probably what I used to be most embarrassed about, he went on welfare. Lost his job. Hey, how am I going to put food on the table? He went on welfare. And at the time, I was in high school. My dad's at the bus garage, because at that time, New York State, if you were getting welfare, you had to do some community work.
Yeah.
He had to go clean the buses at the school. So people would see my dad clean the buses, and here I am in high school, and I was very embarrassed by it. Really, though, what it taught me was love. I mean, hey, who cares about pride, whatever? I got to feed my family. I'm going to do what I have to do.
Yeah.
I'm going to provide for him. I'm going to show him, in my case, me, you know, love. And my dad really did that, and he always believed in me. It was like, hey, you can do anything you want.
And what's his first name?
Same as me, Herb, but everyone calls him Barney. So Barney just said, hey, you can be what you want. He still thinks I walk on water or, you know, poop gold, but that's just, you know, I guess most parents feel that way. But that love really, and then small town America.
Yeah, man.
Small town America. I had relatives that were in the military. My sister did a few years in the Army, aunts, uncles. My grandpa, I found out after I joined, served in the Korean War as an infantryman. But for me, it was really two things. early age, I saw, National Geographic on Green Berets, and I was like, that's what I want to be. I want to be a Green Beret. And quite frankly, there was nothing in my town, so it was like, hey, how do I get out? People talk about going to college, etc. It was, hey, I'm 17 years old, I'm going to join the Army. So I called, I was 16, I hadn't graduated high school yet. They were like, wait till you're 17. Called back again to the recruiters. They're like, okay, what are you running from? I'm like, no, I want to serve. And part of it was the patriotism, the service, my goal of being a Green Beret, and then picked up the goal of becoming a drill sergeant also in that.
Right.
But also, hey, I didn't have any other options. This is a way to change my life. And thankfully it did.
Yeah, so that's amazing. And I have to ask, like, you came and saw the play in DC, and in the scene where Danny's talking about, he's talking to his future wife, and they're by the river, and she's asking him why he became a Green Beret. He actually said that he picked up a National Geographic. Did that land with you at all?
It did. The play all across it hit home. But yeah, that did. That's when I saw it. Was like, I want to be that.
Yeah.
And then my hero growing up was Roy Benavides.
Man, that's a good one.
I think when we talk today, people are like, oh, can you find your hero? Do they look like you? Hey, here was this Texican who, as Roy described himself, that was just, I think anyone who's ever heard his story is like, that is a bad dude. That is, good dude, but like, wow, what he went through and his perseverance, what a role model. And that's who I wanted to be.
Yeah, Congressional Medal of Honor winner, Green Beret, fought in Vietnam, and not only highly decorated, severely wounded, and just his love of his teammates, but then what he went on to do after his time, right? And the way that he would go into schools and talk to kids, right?
He'd sit afterwards and just like broke, if I remember right, he went through the qualification course with a broken back. So even before getting to Vietnam, right?
Yeah.
With those things, he did that. But then, after service, not needing a uniform, still serving, local communities, inspiring kids to say, hey, do better. You can make something of yourself. So just a role model that was my role model. That's who I wanted to be growing up. And that's, it just took me a while once I joined the Army to find my way there, but that's what I wanted to be. So I joined, I'm colorblind, red, green. So they said, hey, you can be a chaplain's assistant or these 3 administrative jobs. Huh. And I was like, no, I want to be airborne infantry, et cetera. They're like, no. So I was like, okay, that job. What looks best on a resume? They're like, that one. I said, I'll take it. But I didn't like it, but I said, I'm going to do my job as best as I can. But I still have my 2 goals. I wanted to be a drill sergeant, and I wanted to be a Green Beret.
So do you mind if I ask what the job was?
It was human resource, S1 guy.
Yeah.
So
I was a quartermaster.
Really?
Did you know that?
No.
Yeah.
Which is
not by desire, though.
Yeah, not by desire, but not most common among special forces.
No.
You find from different walks, but a lot from combat arms.
Yeah.
But for me, it was like, how do I get there? So I ended up, serving, getting promoted on the listed side, volunteered. One of my mentors got me on the list to go to drill sergeant school. I was a drill sergeant, got made to do the Army's Drill Sergeant of the Year competition, well, the local competition.
Yeah.
Won it. And then I'm just too prideful to lose, so I was the Army's Drill Sergeant of the Year.
Oh, wow.
Won that competition, which really was eye-opening for me because I got to go up and work for the 4-star general in charge of training in the Army. And his Sergeant Major Dave, at the time, he was Green Beret. Yeah. So I obviously looked up to him, and that was, hey, I'm at this point in my career where this is the last chance to follow my dream, to be a Green Beret. Do I do it, or do I, quite frankly, live a comfortable life, retire as an E9, senior, ranking on the enlisted side, doing personnel, the human resources stuff? And I said, no, I'm going to go after my dream, and, fought to get to selection, got to selection, and made it.
What was the drive to become a drill sergeant? Because a lot of times you hear guys and girls who go to be drill sergeants, it's kind of like fingernail marks down the hallway. They're moved into that arena. I know certainly in the Green Beret world, it's not drill sergeant, but Special Warfare Center, SWCC. It's usually like you're pushed over there. What was it that drove you to want to be a drill sergeant? Because that is hard ass work, man.
For me, it's the impact you can make.
Yeah.
And there's few places, at least in America, in that short a time, whether it's 10 weeks, 12 weeks, however long, depending on which basic and what, cycles have changed over the years, that you make a lasting impact that's life-changing on a person's life. And I saw that with my drill sergeants. I wanted to be that. I wanted to make an impact on people. And I look at them as the expert trainers here in America, especially as military, is I'm training and learning how to train someone who doesn't know anything, and in 10 weeks you have them at least good enough to go report to their unit or go on to further training in the Army.
And I'm assuming that desire for immediate impact, that desire for technical proficiency and the ability to embody and model what right looks like, you still carry that into corporate America, right? You still...
I may not meet grooming standards, but I still, I don't have a shaved head anymore and stuff like that. But yeah, it doesn't leave you, right?
Yeah.
It's kind of like our service. It's always with us, whether it's a shadow, whatever metaphor you want to use. It's always with us. Those standards and the things we've learned are a part of us.
So you go to Special Forces selection, follow on to the Q course. Were you an engineer?
I was
Okay,
engineer and then Intel and then a Zulu.
Got it. So you went the whole route all the way up to Team Daddy. What was it like going through Special Forces assessment and the training? What was that journey like for you, particularly coming out of a world where you didn't grow up combat arms? So was there a big adjustment there? What was that like for you?
There wasn't really a big adjustment because it was my mindset, my attitude.
Yeah.
Now, just before that, I was the drill sergeant of the year, so literally who I hung out with was like 2- and 3-star generals, and that's who I'd drink a beer with or have a burger.
Yeah.
I went from that life to selection, then to the Q course. And quite frankly, most of the people, I was the most senior guy going through the course. All the other ones at that level washed out, at least in my selection and in my qualification course, because mentally, it's a mindset shift of, you're not in charge. You're just a member of the team.
So let's break that down for a second for folks watching, because I think even people who follow you on LinkedIn and other, they probably don't know that you went to selection. Normally you go to selection if you're enlisted E4, E5, right?
Yep.
So you're either not quite a sergeant yet, or you are, but a very newly promoted sergeant. Sometimes an E6. But you went as an E7. You were a senior non-commissioned officer. You had won drill instructor of the year. Like, you had run the miles and were really looking at, if you wanted to, as you said, a favorable retirement. You could have just kind of coasted.
And, stuff on the conventional army. I'd been inducted to the Audie Murphy Club, which is for high standards.
Yeah.
Training, leadership, caring for your troops. Would have been fine, but I still had my dream. And I didn't want to be sitting here around a fire at 60 years old going, what would have happened?
Yeah.
What could have happened? What should have happened had I went?
Right.
I'm going to do it. And I went, but it was that mindset shift of, I haven't earned anything. I'm humble. I'm coming in here earning my keep just like everyone else. And like most of the instructors said is, we expect more out of you. Because we know you're going to go to a team. You're going to quickly become a senior guy. We're going to grade you harder. And I was like, good. Or some of the instructors, I'd report day one for that phase, and they'd be like, I've never had an E7, my rank, pass. And I was like, okay, I start smiling. They're like, what's so funny? I was like, you're looking at the first one. But that was my mindset, was my commitment level was, I'm going to make it or I will die.
It's your dream. And I really relate to that, because it was my dream from the time I was 14. And I was like you, because I was coming from another branch as an officer, this was it for me. There was no coming back. And I love the story that you told me today, and I'm hoping that you'll share it here, about one particular moment where it wasn't all rainbows and unicorns. Like, you were going through, you went through some challenges in the course where you were right at the edge of not realizing your dream, and you had to find a way through it. Do you mind sharing that?
I would. So for those who know, there's a STAR course, land navigation, orienteering, walking through the woods.
A lot of walking.
Find a point in the woods, not the nice woods, the like gnarly woods, and find a point and then walk to the next one, keep doing it. And you have to hit a certain amount of points to continue on in the course.
And this is wintertime in North Carolina?
Wintertime in North Carolina. So in my case, it was December. I purposely picked a December selection though, because I can't control if I pass out due to the heat. I can mentally control if I suffer from the cold.
Okay.
So I was like, I will suck up the cold. I got my wish. So I did not pass the first day, because if you do it the first day and you meet all the points, you get to sit out the next day. I did not. I fell just short. And now here I am. My dream's gone. Oh my God.
Let's do or die.
And sitting there at Scuba Road, this place known in Special Forces selection as a place you got to cross water. And by water, I mean probably up to your chest in places. It's 27 degrees air temperature. I'm sitting there butt naked in my boots, ready to cross. But my commitment level was, I will die or I will make it, but I'm willing to die for this. And I made it across, quickly got my clothes on after, get my fingers to work done, tie stuff, and started walking because, hey, I got to walk to warm up. Break through brush that is just, essentially I had to fall down, stand up to make it through the woods. I get through there, now it becomes light, it's early in the morning, and I go to grab my map after a little while crossing this field, and my map's gone. Hang in a map case. So in my map was not only my map, was my score sheet and a little protractor, which basically, if you know what you're doing, it helps you read the map of where you got to go. So I looked for about an hour.
So what does this mean in terms of, what are the stakes right now? What does this mean in terms of your ability to pass this course without those items?
You're not going to pass. You're not going to pass. Lifelong dream gone. My one shot to make this gone. So I frantically searched. I went walking all through this field, went back into the woods, tried to find it, couldn't find it, sat down on my rucksack. My pack that was on my back, took it off, sat down on it, and said, my dream's gone. This is it. What I want, my goal since I was a little kid like you, it's gone. I'm not going to be able to make it. And I just felt this, like, I don't know if it was a breeze came through, something said, you're going to do this. Control what you can control. And I just felt like I'm going to make it. So I thought I remembered where I had to go. If I pictured the map in my head, I had about 6 miles or so to go. And I put on my pack and started walking. And I was like, I'm going to make it to this point. And if I can make it there, we'll see what happens. Did it all from memory, made it there. A couple hours later, showed up. The cadre said, hey, give me your score sheet. And I was like, I don't have one. And I told him where I lost it. And he just was laughing and he was amazed that I made it. He gave me a new score sheet, gave me a new map, asked me how many points I'd found the day before. And I told him, he said, hey, you're good. You're going to be good. They'll keep you in the course. So I was relieved and went over and, kept used it. I was like, I think I can get to my second one. So I memorized it and started off on towards my second point because I didn't want to rest on my laurels.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I think it just demonstrates, how bad you wanted it. I had a similar thing happen to me in the team phase. We had the 3-wheel Jeep. And I'm terrible at any kind of engineering or design thinking. I suck at it. My wife, Monty's really good at it, but I'm not. And so it ultimately came down to, boys, like, we're going to have to drag this thing with the lashing and that's all I know to do. But I promise you, I'll be right there with you. And we were a tight little team and we did it. We mostly just drugged this stupid thing. And we got to the finish line, we collapsed in a heap, and my instructor was, he said, I can't believe you got those guys to drag that thing that far, because that's the most idiotic contraption I've ever seen. He goes, thank God you're not an engineer, because you wouldn't be passing. But he passed me. And I think it was because, like your instructor, he saw the desire and the potential to live into what it means to be a Green Beret. Would you agree with that?
I would, and that kind of ethic to keep going, that grit, that I will not fail, you can't teach people that. And I think that's what the instructor saw in both. You inspired guys to do an idiotic thing, and they were able to do it, right, in that case. And for me, I did an idiotic thing, which should have cost me my dream, but I made it to the point. And
off memory.
Yeah, off memory. And
wow.
He's like, okay, here, I'm going to help you out. I believe in you. Thanks for trying.
So even if it seems obvious, I mean, what was your takeaway from that? What did you come away with? You got selected. That was clearly a defining moment in your life. Like, what did you come away with? How did that shape you, fuse you, hone you into the rest of your journey?
Yeah, it shaped me a lot. And it's always, go back and forth of like how much was there that just had to be revealed and how much of it was the experience of going through that shape. And then later in the qualification course, when you earn the actual Green Beret, because that's just the interview to go to the course.
Yeah.
So you haven't made it yet.
Right.
And really for me, it was a lot of things like, hey, what are my motivations? Robust, vigorous, positive thought. Because there's enough doubt out there. Why am I going to doubt myself?
Yeah.
So confidence, but really just not unrealistic positive thought, but positive thought. Control what I can control, know my commitment level. Hey, am I willing to die for this, or am I willing to just a little discomfort, a lot of discomfort? It really set me up for, hey, I earned this. it's my right to now. I have a chance to earn the Green Beret. I've earned my ticket to the party, if you will.
I love it. And so you did earn your Green Beret. You were assigned to 5th Special Forces Group, the Legion. What year was that?
That would have been 2011, I believe.
Right. So things were pretty much still raging in both Iraq and Afghanistan. There was some pull down in Iraq, but there was also, things were also getting hot again. What was that like for you coming into 5th Group, and kind of what did your combat journey look like?
Really a special one. For me, I'd been able to train America's Sons and Daughters as a drill sergeant, got that experience, did a little trip over to Lebanon to help train their forces there, and then we went to Afghanistan. We got the commando mission. So for me, I got to live a dream.
Yeah.
Here I was, a new Green Beret, not new to the military, but a new Green Beret, having, maybe 6 months ago earned my beret.
Right.
And I'm advising 156 commandos, Afghan commandos, and going out on missions. And actually my first mission, we walk in and there's Delta, what everyone knows is Delta Force, CAG, whatever you want to call them, like the real deal dudes. And they're like, this is your guys' mission. You have the commandos, tell us the plan.
Wow.
And that's my first combat mission is dudes in Delta Force going, Herb, this is your mission, plan it, tell us. And talk about confidence there of like, I believe Green Berets are the best of what they do. Here's these guys who are the tip of the spear, number one, tier 1 operator going, your plan, go ahead. And just, wow, this is what I dreamed about. Yeah. This is what I read about in the books. I get to do it. Just amazing, but really learning another culture, diving into the curiosity to learn about them, learn their skills, learn how they go about doing things, and like, okay, let me just try to improve it a little bit.
Yeah.
And it was awesome.
A lot of people who don't understand the war in Afghanistan and what went down, they kind of shake their head at these false narratives that the Afghans didn't fight, or what's the big deal. What would you say to them when you think about your partnership with the commandos and the way that we left that whole thing?
I've said this before. I would have rather went out with a platoon of my commandos than a platoon of American infantry. People think I'm nuts. There's multiple reasons to get into why, but I would have done that. I did do it. Matter of fact, like I did, but I would have rather went out with them. They had been fighting. A couple of my leaders, one of them right after 9/11. So when they first stood up the Afghan army, December 2021, he joined. He had never done a mission without an American advisor attached to him. This was now 12 years later. He had been on thousands of combat missions, but always with an American. Always an American was there. Just hardened individuals. Yes, some people, I had some bad experiences where the non-commandos, the non-Afghan army, special forces led us into bad situations. But with the commandos, I loved them. I ate all my meals with them. We knew each other's families. I mean, quite frankly, they risked their life for me countless times. I risked my life for them. They're brothers.
Yeah. And to see the way it went down, it's hard to communicate to people that have not experienced that level of partnership and brotherhood, isn't it?
And that's the hard thing. I'll be honest, sometimes families don't get it. Because that closeness of, hey, you look around, you're like, wait, these guys are surrounding me with their guns pointed out. They're protecting me.
Yeah.
That amount of closeness, or when a mission goes down and afterwards you're like, oh man, I was probably a little rough and tough with my guys, with the commandos. And the next day they're like, the leader of the commandos is like, I don't know what you did, but these guys will follow you anywhere. They will literally die for you, Herb. Wow. They respect you so much as work. And quite frankly, it's because I kept pushed forward in a firefight. Yeah. And just for 12 hours, we just kept fighting forward. And even as they got tired, I was like, nope, we don't get to be tired. Let's go. And I was picking them up, throwing them in some cases. And that respect of a warrior is what that earned their respect. And it was a brotherly love that it's unless someone's lived it, it's so hard to explain to someone. Because you guys served. Like no, you every day risk your life for each other.
So well said. You did a great job of helping folks understand it there. So you went on in 5th Group to become a Foxtrot or the assistant operations sergeant, second in command on the team on the NCO side, and then ultimately the position that everybody, probably including officers, aspires to be a team sergeant, just the true team daddy of a operational detachment alpha. What was that like, and how did that lead to your decision to hang up the boots?
That was once I earned my Green Beret, and then once I realized what a team sergeant was. Like most people, officer enlisted, say that is the pinnacle, and to me it was. That's the pinnacle. Yeah. I wanted to get that, and I got to be a team sergeant for 3.5 years. Most guys get 2 years, so here I am getting to do 3.5 years of the dream job with that responsibility, doing some just wild missions that will be talked about 20 years from now that people know they happened, but they don't know who was there. Yeah. Getting to do that, leading other Green Berets, truly special, but also that takes a toll on you. Yeah. That just mentally of like always being prepared, because there's no off season. No. There's no like, hey guys, take the off season, we'll prep for spring training and then go. It's always stay on, because we go on a trip. And Special Forces has gotten better about this over the last few years. But I remember at one point in my career, in 3 years, I was home 11 months. Yeah. And you can't sustain that.
It takes a toll. It takes a toll.
As a person, a family. Yeah. Yeah. Do that across a 12-man ODA, which is not 12 men, because you're missing guys. 9 at a best case. Yeah. And I really took care of when I was a team sergeant to like, I know I'm not always going to be here. Let me instill in these leaders to take care of your men and prepare for the future, because we don't know if another 9/11's happening tomorrow.
That's right.
We got to be ready, but we can't be burnt out, so we're not ready.
Right.
But for me, physically, my body couldn't do it anymore. I got to the point of my legs, like sitting here, when I go to get up, they may not work. That's okay here. That's not okay in insert the country when people are shooting at you. Yeah. And I had to mentally come to grips with, I was a liability if I stayed, because I could have stayed about, I would have done one more deployment, done 4+ years. But really at that point for me, it was, I know this is the pinnacle. I've got to do this. Talk about the commando mission. At the time, I got to go out without other Green Berets, approved by CJ Sotof at that time. To the best of my knowledge of what was told to me, I was the only one in country at the time that could do that and take out just Indige. And one of the, a longtime Green Beret team, he's like, you got to do what people did in Vietnam, the Green Berets did in Vietnam, that everyone dreams about and 99% of Green Berets don't even get to do. You got to live. So I got to do that, and I got to be a team sergeant. It's time to figure out what's next.
Yeah. If you want to know some degree of what Herb's life was like, you need to see Elegy of a Green Beret, because I swear to God, like Danny Patton's storyline literally mirrors everything you've said. And I've talked to so many team sergeants, but like even the going outside the wire by himself. Yep. Yeah, man, it's just fascinating. Was it hard to leave?
No, somewhat. I physically couldn't do it anymore. Yeah. So this is why for me, I always feel like I had a little bit better of a departure, because I couldn't physically do it anymore. So it was easier for me to go, I got to go, because I knew I was a liability to my guys if I stayed. That made it easier because I can't change it. I can't get a new back and replace about 3 discs up here and 1 down. I can't do that to be fully functional to where I was. So it made it easier for me to go, okay, what's next? What's the next challenge? What's the next goal?
So you transition out, you're fully dialed into why you're doing it. It makes sense. But you write this book, The Transition Mission. Clearly there was something going on there. What led you to do that, and what was it you were seeing around you that led you to do that?
Yeah, I'll back it up a little bit. So about 2 years before I retired, the Special Forces Charitable Trust sponsored a marriage retreat. One of the best things that ever happened to me. The marriage didn't work out, spoiler alert. But on that retreat, I met Vietnam, right after Vietnam era Green Beret, and he talked to me, hey, what are you doing when your career's done? When you're done being a team sergeant and you go, and I was like, I don't know. And that really was like, wait, I don't know. I can't go back home. I've already talked about, there was nothing to go back to. So I had to dive in to go, wait, the Army's invested a lot of money and time for me to learn how to deploy somewhere immerse myself in a culture, learn. I was like, this is a deployment. I'm going to deploy in the United States. That I just need to use these tools. I'm going to be successful. I do not want to be a statistic. Let's figure out how to do it. And I just started working towards it with about 2 years to go before I actually retired.
Hence the subtitle, A Green Beret Approach,
Yes.
right? Is to take that deployment mindset and focus and then scale that up and share it with other veterans in transition.
It was. So I did that. Truth be told, I talked about the marriage retreat. I was dealing in my personal life, very toxic stuff. My safe spot was focusing on transition out of the military. And what I realized is I did a lot of research. I'd spent 2 years, did over 2,000 informational interviews. I was just always talking to people. I might not make the right decision, but God dang it, was going to be informed.
Yeah.
I'm going to make an informed decision. And I was hearing from others is now after about being out 6 months, people are struggling because they weren't doing that preparation work.
Right.
And I said, I got to help someone. And I was actually on the way home from a spine surgeon when this Army veteran who was out on their transition leave had reached out to me through LinkedIn. We ended up talking. It was like, she was like, I'm effing lost. I don't know what to do. And I was like, I need to help more people. So that day at about 6 p.m. on a Friday, I got home. I sat down in my recliner and started typing. I got up to use the bathroom, to get drinks, food, and by Sunday night, I had most of the book typed out.
It's so funny. Almost the same thing happened to me. My transition book has not done nearly as well as yours, but the same conditions for me writing it. A friend of mine was contemplating suicide, and he called me, and we had a long talk, and it really shook me. It was one of the first times that I had confronted this, and it was a guy who was really a mentor to me. And here I was trying to talk him off the ledge, literally. And I was so shaken and rattled by it, and so much of his crisis had emanated from transition, and he called it changing planets. And so I sat down and I started to write what I thought was going to be like a blog or something, just because I've always kind of done that cathartic writing. And the next thing I know, I kind of woke up out of my trance, and it was a couple days later, and I had this, and again, it's called Mission America, straight talk about military transition, but it's just interesting how these things manifest with us, that we see happening both to us and those around us, and then we draw upon our skill set, our mindset, and our tool set to try to bring some tools or something to just stay relevant, to try to make an impact.
And I think it's the mindset, right? You don't need a uniform, you don't need a title. You see yourself and say, I see a need, I'm going to help people.
Yeah.
And you go for it, just like I did. It's maybe in our DNA, it's been bred into us, it's been trained into us, but it's definitely our thought process is, I'm gonna help people.
But you've proven too, Herb, that you don't have to be a Green Beret or even a veteran to apply that mindset to wherever you're working, whatever you're doing. There's a universal singular to it, right? I mean, it's accessible to those that want it.
It is. There's no. I always joke that, hey, I'm the only person ever to be the Army's Drill Sergeant of the Year and earn the Green Beret in the history of the Army. I'm the only person ever to do that. No one cares. Like, my gas still costs the same. They didn't give me a flight discount. I still pay. Everything's the same. I don't get a parking discount in a parking garage. So some of that is not. It's not who you are, right? But it's stuff you've done. That means anyone can do that. Anyone could go out and say, hey, I just want to help. And whether it's one person, and then we talk about, can you impact one person?
Yeah.
And then scalability. How do you go from helping one to help 10?
Yeah.
Help 100, help 1,000. But everyone can help one person. Really just, sometimes it's, hey, Scott, tell me how it's going. Be someone there to listen to them, give them a little bit of advice, all the way to, having your own Pineapple Express.
Well, and what's so cool is, you were a team sergeant. I mean, literally the position that most people aspire to do. And I suspect you didn't lead much differently than what you're talking about right now, whether you were in a foreign country or, that's pretty much the way you've navigated your world, right?
It is. You improve every day and get better, learn stuff along the way from others. But yeah, how I would say probably as a drill sergeant was a little different.
Yeah, fair enough.
But similar. But definitely is how I went into Afghanistan or insert, Iraq or any other country and learned the culture, assimilated in there, and became a leader within that community, so to speak. Same thing I did when I got out, same thing I do now, whether it's at my company or it's helping out somewhere else. It's the same thing. yeah, the same mindset, a lot of the same principles.
Talk a little bit about that as you transitioned into the civilian world, and particularly the company you're in now, where you've carved out successful space there, scale and growth. But at the same time, that wasn't enough either, was it? I mean, there was a desire to share those lessons learned and best practices across a broader spectrum on the digital domain.
It is, and for me, LinkedIn happened by accident. I didn't set out to be like, hey, I'm going to be this thing, this authority on the military transition or leadership or something. It just kind of evolved over time, and really Corrie helped me see it, and she said, hey, this was after the book was out. She's like, do you see the impact you're making on people? Do you see how they react? And that helped me embrace my story more, and owning, I always tell people, own your journey. It's how I live my life. Like, it isn't someone else's fault, it's mine. Like, I'm going to figure this out. Let's go. I have a solution. But Corrie really helped me. So like, hey, you see these people, like, you're making a huge impact. And I didn't want to take credit. It's not me. It's not. And they put in the work, but someone got them nudged in the right way. And I really saw, the more I dove into sharing more of me, sharing more of our story, sharing our story as far as Corrie and I, helps people. And then it doesn't matter if they're veteran or non-veteran, special forces or a cook or somewhere out in corporate America or working in a warehouse. We're all people.
Yeah.
we all are. None of us are robots. So like, it helps everyone.
You hate the term influencer.
I do.
Tell us why.
I believe it's a bad connotation. And again, that's my opinion. It's my maybe stereotype of influencer means a bad word. Like shady, because I think most people, when they say it in the social media realm, they might think about someone like the Kardashians or someone like that, hey, nothing against them people, that are those influencers. I don't think they're authentic, and I don't think they're out there to help others. They're out there to get rich. They're out there to increase their brand. They're out there to get more clicks. I'm not about that. I really believe the more veterans, and I include military spouses in that land softly in communities and companies around our country, the better off we are. And we probably need it now more than ever. So
we need them in the game, man.
That's
we
why,
need our veterans
that's
leading
why,
us here at home. Wes and I talk about this all the time. Our military families and our veterans, we need them leading us here at home in these trust-depleted times. But so if a veteran or a civilian person is looking at their life right now and they look at what you've done in the social sphere and LinkedIn, how, and really you and Corrie both, I mean, you guys bring such a cool chemistry to impact, right? And moving people to action. What would you say to someone that's wanting to make an impact and they haven't really found a pathway yet? Like, what is a way to be authentic in that space and do the right thing?
I do get asked a lot. It's like, how you're so authentic, and that's one of the things that comes across. How are you so authentic? And I was like, you're asking me how I'm me. And how, like, I don't know how to tell you that other than, I will say this, you got to care what other people think without caring what other people think. I know that's like a tongue twister. It's not supposed to be a riddle, but you do have to care what people think and what you want to be able to do for them. Because at the end of the day, it shouldn't be about you.
Yeah.
It's about them and it's about helping people. But we all know in these days, 2023, everyone's got an opinion. You're not going to make everyone happy. So I can't worry about what everyone thinks because I'm not going to make everyone happy. So do I know who I am at my core? Do I live by that moral, ethical code that I have? And everyone's a little different. Everyone has a different moral compass. But what is mine, and do I stay true to within my community to where I can hold my head high? And if I'm doing that, then I'm okay with it.
Bringing it to a close, what's your take on leadership today at the institutional level, and where do we go from here?
I don't think this is a surprise. We lack leadership.
Yeah.
And I'll say this, the military is not the only place where leaders come from.
Yeah.
I've met some amazing leaders who have no military experience. I've met bad leaders who had military experience. But there's no doubt we have a leadership vacuum. And Corrie and I talk about it all the time. It's like, how do you fill that vacuum? Something's going to fill the vacuum. From what we did in our old walk of life, of how do you go in and overthrow a country, you create a vacuum and then get somebody in the vacuum. overly simplifying, but that's a problem now. The problem is, one thing I believe everyone tries to please everyone.
Yeah.
And you can't please everyone. And then do you listen to the loudest people or do you listen to everyone? And well, the loudest people are the ones heard, so that ends up driving a lot of the conversation. And then do you have the courage to stand up and go, hey, that's wrong. Let's make a stand now. And I'm not saying some physical altercation, but let's talk about this. Is America. We talk about our differences. We work through our dialogue. We hold people accountable. Just like with Afghanistan, where's the accountability? Where is the accountability for that? The leader step up and go, you know what, I messed up. That is wrong. We shouldn't have done it. Here's how we're going to learn from it so it doesn't happen again.
100%.
We're just lacking that both in our country and the institutions. In a lot of cases across corporate America, look at how many, especially in the tech company space, have laid off thousands of workers over the last months, and maybe they got an email about it.
Yeah.
There's no good way to tell someone bad news, but there's definitely bad ways to tell people bad news, and
right.
leaders own it.
You're right, man. And so what are you and Corrie, what's next for you guys? What are you building that we can look forward to in response to that? Where do you see you guys going over the next months, years, to try to help us address this and get our head around it?
We talked about building in our communities, leading in our communities. We have a platform for whatever that is. I won't use the term influencer, but we have a platform that is globally, but especially in the US. How can we leverage that to do what we want to do, which is more good, make more of an impact? So we are pushing more into that to refine what we're doing, to bring a podcast. So
Nice.
I know everyone has podcasts, but to make an impact that people go, that made me think, oh, can I change what I'm doing? And if they can walk away like that and probably smile during it, have a little laugh, then let's do that. So that's the next thing. And then I don't know what the future holds. A lot of people are always like, hey, where do you see yourself in 5 years? I don't know. We don't know. We're kind of going to go, we're on azimuth. This is the azimuth we're on of the direction, but depending on how the conditions change, depending on what we see, how we're feeling about what we're liking, we can push it a different way.
Well, I know I speak for Monty, my wife, and when I tell you that you and Corrie give a lot of hope and resilience to people, and people just take a lot of strength from the resilience and authenticity of how you guys lead. And, I know that as you continue to build it, there'll be a lot of people coming along for the ride. Monty and I'll be two of them. And I'm super glad that we're working on storytelling together. I think that's going to do some really neat things in the future. Who knows? Maybe you and I, it'd be fun to share the stage sometime and engage.
That might be a bucket list item right there for me. That would be cool.
You got that, Wes?
Yeah, write it down. But I think also we're concerned with something I focus on is I don't just want to help the military community because we're America.
Absolutely.
I want to help America.
Same here, man.
Do this. You don't
Same
have to
here.
be a veteran or a non-veteran. How do I bridge that divide?
That civil military gap.
Corrie and I also talk about normalize relationships because a lot of stuff you see is fake, and it's where Corrie and I are trying to normalize. We don't always get along. No one does. But how do you work through it? Or how do you tackle this problem? Like talked with Wes before this, and we have 4 teenagers. There's issues when you have 4 teenagers, 3 of them learning to drive or, in the process of driving. You go through stuff, but if you look on social media and you see stuff, it's all, everything's perfect. White picket fences, roses, everything's perfect. It's like, no, there's real life struggles that we have. And I would say that's where we're going, Scott. Really, to bring it back to that, a question later is to normalize life, and leadership, but really make it normal because too much what we see is not authentic.
Or below the surface is this shadow tribalism of just divisionist, fear-based behavior where people are in a trance state, swinging axe handles at each other or, unfriending somebody on Facebook because they're a different party or, not going to Thanksgiving dinner.
Disagree one time, we're done.
Yeah, we're done. And just, torching an entire relationship. And I think that, that takes us off a cliff as a civil society. And I'm like you, I believe that getting back to civil discourse, respect, I've even been an advocate for, it's far more important probably today that rather than focusing on the issues, but how we treat each other when we talk about the issues.
Amen. I believe that is we've lost that. We've lost the ability to disagree. In many cases, we've lost the ability to disagree, and people are, like you said, so scared to disagree, even if they do disagree. And I don't care what the issue is. Let's just talk about that. That is what our country's founded on, is we come from multiple backgrounds, different thought processes, but we agree on a way to work together and move forward. But we have to have that discourse, or it's not going to work.
And we're going to have to retrain ourselves to do it, because we've lost it as a civil society. You know, Sebastian Junger wrote in Tribe, he said, you know, most veterans are willing to die for their country, but they have no clue how to live for it.
Yeah.
Because it's hard to know how to live for a country that's tearing itself apart.
It is. It's foreign to us. And
Yeah.
and for many of us, like me, it's like, what did I miss the 20 years I was
What
serving?
happened?
Where, like, I didn't pay attention about what's going on here at home. And I think a lot of it is sped up now with social media. And
Accelerated.
we're in some
Tough
difficult times coming up of more social media, access to news that is maybe true, maybe false, but it looks true.
Yeah.
And it might, now let's get even more squirrely. Let's throw artificial intelligence in there and do that. And we need to come together, because someone will try to bring us apart. And there's people that will try to bring us apart, or that are trying to bring us apart.
Absolutely, man. And I believe that I'm still an optimist. I still believe our best days are in front of us. You know, I tell people all the time that, that for us, for our little group of veterans, that was our Pineapple Express, but we need Pineapple Expresses all over the country in a range of different industries and nonprofits. And, I think it's happening. I really do. I think Putnam wrote about in Bowling Alone that in the early 1900s, there was an upswing of the Rotary Club, the Junior League, Alcoholics Anonymous, NAACP, at a time when we were falling apart. And I think we're at that same downswing right now, but we're on the cusp of an upswing. I think there are a lot of leaders who are looking around saying, nobody else is coming, I'll jump in there and I'll do my part.
And that's key right there. No one else is coming. And it may seem daunting, like, oh my God, we got to fix America. No. Just fix what you can right in front of you.
Just fix
now,
what's
if we're
on your
all
left.
doing that, you do your little part, we do your little part, we're all doing little parts, we get better and we come together as a country. So everyone just needs to do their little piece, their little Pineapple Express. We're going to get there. I believe we get there too. I believe. I've not lost hope. I'm discouraged some days, but I've not lost hope.
Well, Herb, we'll definitely have to do this again. But is there anything that we didn't hit today in the realm of leadership, or anything else that you're seeing that you want to cover that we haven't?
Don't be afraid to lead.
Yeah.
Too often, especially now, we're too afraid to lead. Oh, I'm not in a position of leadership. You don't need a position. You don't need a position to make an impact and lead one person.
Yeah.
To lead someone else. To lead your family. Just, at the end of the day, be good for your family. Treat them to be good. Maybe it's the neighbors. Now you get into your local community, or maybe it's through social media. Just don't be afraid to lead. It's not too daunting. It's not too big of a challenge. Just have a conversation with someone. We can agree to disagree, come back tomorrow and work towards a better America.
So good, man. Herb, awesome having you on, brother. De Appresso Liber. Thanks so much for being with us. Thanks to all of you for dialing in. If this podcast resonated with you, and I don't know how it couldn't, share it with somebody that you think could use it. Share it with somebody who is trying to build a movement, or wants to build a movement in their world, or just needs to know that there are people out there doing it. That's how we're growing this audience, one listener, one viewer at a time, organically, who see that they can step into the arena and make an impact. So please share it. If you feel like going on and making a review, we'd love that as well. And most of all, like Herb said, take care of each other. Don't be afraid to lead. We'll leave it right there. Thanks for what you do, and we'll see you on the rooftop.